Okay, we got a listener line call that relates to this race conversation that we are having. And this is something that I've actually gotten probably multiple calls and emails and DMs about over the years. So I think it's time we address it.
Great.
Hello there. This is Rand calling from Oceanside. Fun quick fact. I work for LinkedIn, and I used to be the guy who set up your linkedin.com/surf URL for the longest time. I switched departments. I don't do that anymore, but hey, I used to have a giggle every time I did that because obviously I'm a listener and I do surf, so right on. That's how I found out about the show, actually. But anyhow, I'm Brazilian born and raised, been in the U.S. for over 15 years, and I'm calling regarding what in my opinion seems like a discrepancy about the Gabe Medina approach. So I think the week before you guys were mentioning about you had a John fan calling out he's the best ever, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I'm not a fanboy of Gabriel Medina. I'm just Brazilian. And I just want to point out that, this last week at Chopes, he comboed John. Gabriel has way better results at Type Masters than John. He has 5 finals, if I believe, and a title. So arguably, Gabe Medina is a better barrel rider than John Florence. That's what the results show. I know the results are not live, but anyway. And also, I want to point out that, you guys barely breezed over that. And I don't think you even mentioned the combo in John, and there's a huge discrepancy. Me here living in Southern California, seeing how international media doesn't understand the Brazilian surfing and Brazilian culture in general, and how everything's put out of context in a way, and understanding both sides. I wish there was more balance to that. I know Chaz has been to Brazil. I know you guys know a lot, but you definitely miss a lot of it from not being born and raised there like I am. Cheers and keep it up.
So just I think the point is kind of a general dismissal of a lot of Brazilian surfing's incredibleness, and then an over fanning out over basically Caucasian surfers like John. And he gives examples. Gabe versus John. Gabe's smoking him, but all we ever do is talk about John.
I completely agree. And I think this is great call, and thank you so much. And I think having your blind spots pointed out, there's a reason they're blind spots, right? If we were aware of all the gaps in our ability or understanding or worldview, then, you would address it or not and be aware of it. I think for me, it's great. And totally, I feel put in place. I feel you're exactly right. I have probably of course, all kinds of unconscious biases, and I think this or I think that without even knowing it, right? And so he's probably exactly right. I probably consider Brazilian surfers less. Just having grown up, I think, especially, let's be honest, when I started my surf fandom, I suppose, Brazilian surfing looked like, what's his name?
Neco
Poterots. Exactly. And Poterots had a horrible style. I'm sure he's a great guy, but Poterots looked bad, right? And so then Brazilian surfing, professional surfing, kind of got branded by Poterots' style. And then as much as I love the Little Plumber, Adriano de Souza was, and maybe it's because of my own xenophobia, that de Souza, I liked his attitude, I liked his pluck, I liked all this, but I never liked the way he surfed, right? And now coming on to this crop of Gabe and Felipe and Idolo, he's they're phenomenal. They are the best in the world, and I think we discuss that on air, but rarely do we discuss, I think, style as much. And he's exactly right. I think looking at it, yeah.
I think that maybe the listener's argument would also be the reason why you thought Brazilian surfing was all Neco Paterats and associated with bad style was the surf media was, Caucasian centric and saw it through that lens. And so they perpetuated those stereotypes
completely.
So it didn't. Brazilian surfing wasn't that. It was multifaceted and multi-styled and all that sort of thing. It's just there's never been representation for it, or not, accurate representation of it, and that still exists today. You know.
Completely. And I guess though, with calls like that, and with you and I trying to better, like, to step back and say, oh, that is true, right? Like, I'll give stuff a short shrift that I shouldn't, that I should actually be paying attention to. That's how people get better, and and moreover, how the representation of surfing gets better. It gets fuller, right?
Yeah.
Like, where the fullest representation of surfing possible is the best. What is really happening.
Yeah.
And anytime anybody gets locked into, especially as it relates to not race per se, but, like, I don't know, region or country, like, that is a smaller, less satisfying vision of surfing.
Totally. Yeah, and to his point, though, we will go on ad nauseum about John John's whatever it happens to be style. And his point is like, look, Gabe, there's just as much to discuss here with Gabe. And maybe not in regard to style, but pick a different detail of Gabe's surfing or personality or whatever, and there's tons to discuss there. It's just we don't want to discuss it for some reason.
That's true. I mean, I will, to his credit, J.P. Curry, Beach Grit's tour commentator or analyst, he said for a long time that Gabe is, best surfer, his favorite on tour for a long time. Like, he will give Gabriel Medina more ink than all the others combined.
That's good. I mean, honestly, watching that Chopu event, it was clear to me that Gabriel Medina is the best surfer we've ever seen at Chopu. Like, he is toying with it. There was waves, I think especially in the final, where he would take off under the lip. The waves fully breaking, and it's super late, and you'd be amazed if anybody else even made the drop. And he's like falling right into position, bobbing and weaving through the barrel, just fully playing with it. And it wasn't huge Chopu, but it was still really, threatening. 6 to 8 feet. People get hurt out there all the time in those conditions, and he's playing with it like it's a 3-foot beach break. And I was like, not only is he the best surfer at Chopu, he might be the best surfer at a break. Like, I don't know if somebody who surfs Pipeline, somebody who lives at Pipeline and surfs Pipeline that well, or somebody who lives at Lowers and surfs Lowers that well. Like, he is so dominant at this one spot.
Did you make that argument somewhere? Because I read that argument. Was it you?
I did not.
It's that, where was it? Oh, I think it was maybe even, I can't remember. Might have been JP. But anyway, him saying that basically the way he surfs these places looks like he's an expert. He's blowing in. He's not spending any time there, right?
Crazy.
Gabriel is not posting up at either Pipeline or Chopu, and he surfs them as effortlessly and bravely and knowledgeably and cleanly as the specialists, right? Like, you don't look at, I don't know, who was the what's the dude who went into the semis or whatever? Mihimana Bray or whatever?
Yeah, Mihimana Bray.
Yeah, Mihimana Bray. Like, you look at a guy like that, that wave is his life, right?
Yeah.
Gabe goes in and looks beautiful, looks like that it's his life too, even though he's there for, 5 days, 10 days a year?
Yeah. It's
which
remarkable.
Is something speaks volumes about his talent.
To JP Curry's point, like, if you're going to just focus on championship tour surfing, Gabe is the most adaptable, interesting, competitive, like, talented in that realm.
It's funny to me, or interesting to me, I suppose. I wonder if, with Gabe's personal upheaval of the last couple years, him, the trouble with his parents, him getting married, then divorced, and the kind of public turmoil in his life. We had discussed that before. Is that going to make him a better surfer, or better professional surfer, or a worse professional surfer?
Yeah.
I think it kind of shook out that it made him worse, right? Like, that it took his focus, I suppose, because there's no way, to me, for my money, I don't think anyone could make an argument, and I would dare somebody to try, that Gabriel Medina is not currently the best surfer in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, he's more complete than John.
Well, no, John would be the other conversation point.
I mean, but I think John has lost a little pop in small stuff. Like he doesn't have
Yeah.
the like that for whatever reason, right? Maybe he has it inside just or just can't get it up for, you know, small crappy beach break, right? But
Yeah.
Gabriel can. Gabriel will go huck and fly. Gabriel will pull in late on big barreling waves. Like Gabriel Medina is the best surfer in the world, which is funny to think about now that the tour should be stacked, and not to get into a bashing WSL, but tour should be stacked to deliver the best surfer in the world at the end, right? It's very clearly Gabriel. It's definitely not Philippe, and yet Philippe will win.
I know, it's crazy.
But it, like when you
Well, I mean,
have that big, I mean, I think, yeah. Who else? Who else would you say is better than Gabriel Medina in the world?
I, I mean, I would make an argument for John just for the sake of like having a debate, but I totally hear exactly what you're saying. Like, my argument for John would be that he's got rail game that Gabriel Medina does not have.
Okay, which so I guess if we wanted to really get in the weeds between the rail and the small wave
That would
prowess.
so yeah. John doesn't have the small wave prowess. Gabe doesn't have the rail game. That would be it. But I mean, in the past, I would have argued like John put them in world class surf, and John stands out. But to the caller's point, Gabe does too.
Yeah,
You
Gabe
know?
does. Gabe very much stands out. Gabe stands out too as a yeah, like he doesn't look like I don't know Idolo's performance at the box the first time he ever surfed, right? That will forever be seared, I think,
Yeah.
in most surf fans' memories. There was kind of an animal, like the one where he just basically fell out of the sky and grabbed the
Yeah.
bottom, you know, and blah blah. There was kind of like an just like a savage way that he surfed that. Where Medina doesn't have that, right? Like, which I love that too. I love that kind of savage approach to surfing. That completely like instinctive approach to surfing. Gabriel doesn't. Gabriel looks like he's fully sending it and fully in control.
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, the listener, I think that our maybe Southern California surf media and surf industry represents like it dominates a lot of the space, but it really doesn't represent the entire world's. I mean, there's so much more surfing going on and fandom going on that is not reflected through this little portal that pumps out a bunch of content, basically, of Southern California. And if you just look at Gabriel Medina's Instagram followers, he has 11 million. John
Yeah.
has 1.5.
I
You know,
mean,
and so
what does Kelly have? Kelly has
2 million, 3 million,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. I mean,
So Gabriel is far and away, more popular by those metrics, and so us not representing that or reflecting that is not reflective of the world. It's reflective of, like you said, our own short-sightedness or our own. Everybody has their own preferences and their own things that they like, and we happen to like John for whatever reasons. But it isn't reflective of what's happening in the surf world at large. Fans like Gabriel.
totally. Well, and I love that, again, I love that we get that call. I love that that caller spends the time and energy to help educate us, right?
Yeah.
And I encourage any other listener, point it out, man. Point out where we are missing because
Yeah.
I want to know too. I want to see things differently and better.
Yeah, and I do. I think somebody made a comment about Gabriel. Like, I like him better now. Basically, it was easy to dislike. I think for a lot of years, but I do like him better now. And with calls like that, I'm forced to kind of investigate him more. And then I realize, like, yeah, you're right. He is kind of a multifaceted, interesting, dynamic personality. So yeah, I'm glad. I like it.
Thank you.
It's better for surfing too.